Hello everyone, good morning. So thank you very much everyone joining Tibetan Buddhist Society of Canberra's Sunday 11 a.m. meditation and talk. So this morning I will guide you through the Bodhicitta as subject of the teaching and meditation combined together. So find yourself a secure space and allow your mind to be as spacious and receptive as possible to do this reflection on the practice of Bodhicitta as a meditation subject. So first of all, we will do the traditional prayers to start up our refuge, renew our refuge, generation of the very prayer of Bodhicitta, and then the four immeasurables. So put your hands at the heart and whatever understanding of the qualities of the Buddha, the fully enlightened one, the Dharma, the timeless wisdom, and Sangha, the precious community, both enlightened one and conventional ones. You should bring those in your mind, and many of you have already refuge. It may have been many years when you first discovered and took refuge, how much relevance it has been, and how we can each day go and revalidate that every time we do the refuge prayer. So with these reflections and understanding and comprehension, we'll do the refuge. What is it that is not safe thoughts or attitudes or perspectives or opinions and views where we are, which are contradictory to our refuge. So we need to leave those places and spaces and come to the refuge, turn to the Dharma, and turn our back to those ways and thoughts, beliefs, perceptions, and opinions that are contradicting to our refuge practice. So with that in mind, one need to renew the refuge, and likewise the Bodhicitta. So we'll do the prayer. Thank you first. Oyenda Buddha Dhamma Sangha Aitere Pede Laden Bhavacha Ajendala Ajara Vadavadruve Enda Buddha Dhamma Sangha Aitere Pede Laden Bhavacha Ajendala Ajara Vadavadruve Enda Buddha Dhamma Sangha Aitere Pede Laden Bhavacha Ajendala Ajara Vadavadruve. May all beings have happiness and cause of happiness. May they be free from suffering and a cause of suffering. May they know a path from happiness that knows no suffering. May they dwell in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion to those near and far. May all beings have happiness and cause of happiness. May they be free from suffering and a cause of suffering. May they know apart from happiness that knows no suffering. May they dwell in equanimity, free from attachment, aversion, those near and far. May all be happiness and the cause of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the cause of suffering. May they never run the happiness that knows no suffering. May they dwell equanimity, free from attachment and aversion to those near and far, according to the intelligence and predisposition of it, where the Dharma agela come go. So in this morning session, the subject is how to do the Bodhicitta meditation. And so I will suggest that you do the meditation. Meditation really means being your mind with your mind should be with the Bodhicitta. Usually in the traditional preliminary practices, and they always have refuge. You have to recite the refuge prayer 100,000 times, and then do the 100,000 prostration. With Bodhicitta, you have to do the Bodhicitta prayer 100,000 times as preliminaries and so on. But I would like to approach how the meditation on Bodhicitta should entail. Even though you do the refuge and Bodhicitta prayers 3 times minimum before any other activities, maybe the subject of the meditation is something else, a deity yoga or whatever, people think as if they are doing some meditation on something, while refuge and Bodhicitta is just like a token preliminary that you have to do, but after that you have a totally different subject of meditation. That is not really the case. Refuge and Bodhicitta should be applied and staying at the forefront of our heart and our intention, not just when we are sitting and doing the prayers, but also we should make that our thought, make that our constant attitudes. So therefore, when I talk about Bodhicitta meditation, we're talking about how to stay present in the state of Bodhicitta. How can you make the mind itself is mindfully in the altruistic intention. So of course, first we have to know what is Bodhicitta, and then how we can stay present in that state. Say if you're meditating on something, you focus your attention on the object. Now here the object is Bodhicitta, and so Bodhicitta is a bodhi. The Sanskrit word bodhi means enlightenment. What is enlightening is it is altruistically doing it for the sake of others, not for oneself. And so if one is able to be selfless and try to guard your mind, being altruistic state of mind, and so there are 2 types of altruistic practice. There is relative altruism and ultimate. So here the relative is also subdivided into aspirational altruism and then engaging altruism. So aspirational altruism is just like a starting up. Make sure that you have wished to attain enlightenment for the benefit of others. And then engaging is try to sustain that attitude, not only with the attitude, but also if you're sitting still in meditation, you try to use the actual action of sitting. Outwardly you may be doing karma body meditation. Outwardly you might be doing rituals, pujas, but deep down, every activity that you are engaging throughout the ritual or activity can be the engaged bodhicitta. And the engaged bodhicitta only exists if you have a very strong will and determination to do it for the benefit of others. So therefore, the bodhicitta meditation, therefore, isn't just a couple of prayers you say on the mala. Even you say hundreds of thousands of times, how do we know it is bodhicitta meditation? Bodhicitta meditation is trying to keep the citta, the thought. The thought of altruism must be subject and object of the meditation. Attention, subject and object of your attention. So much so that you actually are elated in a state of selflessness. So I would like to present that how do you determine that you are staying in that altruistic state of mind. Usually I say when you do the bodhicitta meditation, analytically you do it firstly the easiest object, then the second is the intermediate object, which may be a neutral object, and then the third is the most hardest object. So whereas the bodhicitta motivation is itself, ideally is for the sake of all sentient beings. But usually the idea of having the altruism for the sake of all sentient beings is very lofty goal. But when it comes to applying, we know our altruism is very limited. Limited to whom, why, and how long, So firstly, it's very difficult to conceive the bodhicitta motivation in relation to others. Usually it's we, the primary practitioner, is quite focused that thinking the bodhicitta motivation is good for me. So it comes firstly, it's always for me. So the person who is a main beneficiary of bodhicitta motivation is me. And now, if it's real bodhicitta, it should be other. Shouldn't be for the sake of self, but should be for the sake of any of the three, if possible, all three of them. That is the friends, neutral, and the enemy. So if possible, you don't discriminate between neutral and a friend and enemy, because all of them are equally worthy objects of our bodhicitta motivation. So we should practice altruism to anyone who is other than oneself. So I call that the bodhicitta has to be not selfish citta, but selfless citta, selfless thought of doing for others. Now, when you train systematically, you first try to increase your love and compassion, altruism to someone who is nearest and dearest to you, not because it's easier to do, because it still is part of us, So it isn't a great sacrifice, it seems. So we feel quite easy to do that. That's just a skillful steps of teaching. And then secondly, if you are able to increase your love and compassion, altruism to few near and dear, more important than yourself, but it's not just you increasing your love and altruism to the sake of others, but more important than yourself, you should see. Your near and dear people are not second person to you, let alone third person to you. They are the first person. So they take over the position that we used to be the center stage. So therefore the selfishness is not there, but selflessly one is showing altruism to the near and dear more than ourselves. That's a good sign of being able to do tonglen, or do giving, or do being patient, or being generous to them, or whatever, even more than we would be able to do for ourselves. Now, how many are such people in our lives? Usually very, very, very finite number, maybe single digit. Do you have double digit near and dear whose sake you are unconditionally able to love them more than yourself? It's a highly big question, you know. So our bodhicitta in relation to the object, our object of meditation should be not self but other. Among the other, we try to first do a near and dear. But say you became very good at exchanging yourself with others, putting them more in prioritize where their well-being than yours, and you don't mind yourself, you put others first. Quite a lot of people can do that with the one or two, or maybe a few people. Really, they put their importance more than oneself. But we do that only for maybe a couple of hours or maybe a couple of days, but it's very limited. Not only limited to whom among the near and dear, but limited to how long. And not only limited to how long, but limited in what reason is. What if they did this? What if they did that? Then maybe nothing. No, you won't be able to extend that selflessness. So this, therefore, I would like to look at if we really have bodhicitta meditation, we need to switch 5 points. So instead of self, we should think of the others. I mentioned the others could be friends, could be neutral, and could be the enemies. Yeah, so that will present. But of course, because they are all others, so bodhicitta is cherishing others more than oneself. The others includes the friend and neutral and the enemies. Okay, so that's switching selfishness from selflessness, focus on others. And also not doing for today or now, today or now, but for future. We do the altruistic meditation not for today, like we don't do it for me, not do it for today or for how convenient it is for today or this time, now, but for future, for the benefit of future minds, future. So that's a switching number 2. So focusing, instead of becoming so fixated, what I get now type of thing. If you get something now, you be excited. If you don't get now, then you get upset. That's not bodhicitta. That's very short-sighted. So therefore, we should think of the future and for the benefit of other, rather than for me and now. So that's a good sign of improving your horizon. It's not short-sighted, but for the future. Your attitude is not selfish, but for the selfless, for the sake of others. And then the third one is not for the enjoyment of your 5 senses, but for the betterment and improvement of your mind stream. So instead of for the bodily comfort, it is for the mental mind stream's benefit. So you're switching from priority over the body's comfort to the mind's benefit. So that's the switch. That's what you exchange your mind, priority for the body to the mind. Usually the teaching talks about that your benefit of others is more important, but they don't really. I have thought about this bodhicitta quite a bit, and I have been trying to look at how differently we can approach. So I think there needs these 5 switches, 5 changes. From selfishness to selflessness, from short-sightedness to the far-sightedness for the future, and for the physical well-being to the mental well-being. So that's the mental because bodhicitta is a well-being of the mind. So therefore one should be tolerant with what the body goes through, and therefore not mind what the body temporarily go through, but as long as the mind itself will benefit in the future. And then the fourth one is benefit versus harm, benefit versus harm, yeah? So you don't look for immediately what is beneficial for me, but you don't mind immediately you might have to be exposed to some harm or discomfort or difficulties, because in the long run it's going to benefit you. So for instance, if you're practicing bodhicitta, you don't practice whatever is most beneficial to you now. Temporarily it might be harmful to you, but like someone is angry and abusive to you, which is harmful to you, but you do not retaliate aggression with aggression. Why? Because aggression with aggression does not overcome the aggression. But temporarily facing aggression, even though it might look harmful to you, but not aggressing with aggression will in the long term benefit me and the other, never mind the temporary harm that you must have to forbear. See? So therefore there's switching from help or comfort in the meantime, but instead you don't mind the harm or stress that you have to endure, whether practicing generosity or tolerance. You have to tolerate the hardships and harmful things, and not retaliate aggression with aggression, abuse with abuse, and harassment with harassment, and finger pointing with finger pointing, screaming with screaming. That's harming with harm. Harming harm or aggression with aggression does not minimize the harm. It only maximizes, it escalates. So a bodhicitta practitioner, conduct-wise, is not minding someone who's aggressive. Of course, we don't have the character of tolerating harmful or aggressive people. But that's exactly is the bodhicitta practice. You should tolerate the aggression of somebody and not resort yourself to aggression, because aggression does not remedy aggression. But tolerance to aggression will in the long run. Temporarily it may even harm you physically or whatever, but in the long run it will benefit you. So that's switch number 4. You're switching from seeking for beneficial things to harmful things. You don't mind facing harmful things. Now the fifth is this life versus future. Usually we are doing any of the practices as if some beneficial outcome if we experience this lifetime, we'll practice. But we really have not a much kind of far-sighted view for the future lives. So the fifth one is never minding what this life's hardships we may to face, but we are bent on to see the very meritorious benefit in future lives. Now, if you have these 5 sets of switches, then your practice of bodhicitta will prosper. Now, this is very, I thought this very, very carefully. If you look at that bodhicitta teaching, it's always like this. For instance, if you were to practice generosity, if you were to practice generosity, there is a danger of, even as a Mahayana Buddhist, to practice generosity to a noble cause or helping some poor or whatever, but still doing it for thinking, I will benefit from this. So here one should be practicing generosity with the intention to benefit the other. If you see the benefit is having a positive effect to the other more than you seeking benefit, then our bodhicitta meditation is accurate. We are focused on the benefit for the benefit of other. So instead of saying what is in it for me, so it's not self-orientated. And likewise, in that very example of practicing generosity to the other, and you know that if you practice generosity now, it not only looks like benefiting them now, but it will also benefit them in the future. And it will benefit yourself in the future many, many times. And so therefore you don't do it for immediate benefit for today, what benefit will come for me, but in the long term, in the future, for them and us, it will benefit both of us and even many more other sentient beings. And also, when you practice generosity, you never mind any wear and tear and difficulty that your body might go through. You totally forbear the hardships and what you may be exposed to physically. But you instead do it knowingly that it is for the priority of well-being in your mind stream. So therefore the generosity that you practice is not only generosity to the other, but generous for your future mind stream. Future mind stream. So Bodhicitta has this kind of a extendable kind of a benefit. It has a warranty for future benefit, and it's a warranty for benefiting others and to the mind stream. And it has a warranty to benefit you in the future, even though that you might have temporarily, you have to go out of pocket. Temporarily, you might have less money in your account than you would like to, but it will benefit and empower others. So you can see the Bodhicitta meditation is a very, very, very very intelligent emotional attribution which empowers oneself to practice selflessness. And then one knows it will benefit future lives. So I think we need to therefore look at how present are we when we try to do things with altruism. Often it is not habitual, by the way. Bodhicitta is not a habitual conduct of us. Instead, selfishness is the habitual conduct. So we have to almost break in the selfish conduct and hijack it, so to speak. So more often you are able to remember, oh, I'm selfish again, or I'm short-sighted again, or I'm very materialistic again, or I'm only wanted immediate benefit now. So I'm only thinking of me, and so on. When you notice these things, our Bodhicitta meditation hasn't really conceived properly. How do you know the Bodhicitta meditation is conceived? When you truly are in the bodhicitic state of mind. So bodhicitta is not just a prayer you say at the beginning. That's just the kind of convention. You can say the bodhicitta prayer 3 times. But sometimes saying bodhicitta prayer 3 times doesn't do much, because we are merely lip serving. We are merely reciting, but we are not putting our thoughts, intention, feelings, and emotions into it. When you actually put the altruistic motivation for the sake of others, you will feel, what does bodhicitta meditation constitute? You feel so right, so joyous, and it lacks your medicine. As soon as the bodhicitta motivation conceives in you, you feel like you are tasting the butter from the churning of all the milk of Dharma. You will feel in a very amazing state of properness. And so bodhicitta motivation is constitute, if one changes all the 5 things I've mentioned above, then what does it do? It gives you a very noble intention. In Tibetan we call a good heart, semba zangbo, meaning you have yielded a great mind. You couldn't believe what your mind has become. It no longer is mean, it no longer is selfish, it no longer is short-sighted, It no longer is me orientated, I and me. It is always thinking for the sake of the others and future and so on. Because of that, you have amazing joy. Your joy, even the physical and the other difficulties there, but it does not overwhelm you. It doesn't stress you. But instead, your inner joyful intention lifts your spirit like the panacea, as if you are actually relishing the very best form of mindfulness and meditation, because you are in the bodhicitta state of meditation. So, in order that we learn how to practice the bodhicitta meditation, we might have to use the wording bodhicitta, or saying that I must reach the state of Buddhahood for the sake of all beings who have mothered me, and I'll practice this bodhicitta, which is the path, profound yoga of all the Buddhas of the past, present, and future. So you will need to kind of, you might occasionally reflect on such I would say formula, because when you meditate, you need to focus on something, words of prayer or something. But the main thing is, it needs to be much more revolutionary, productive than merely murmuring the saying prayer many times. But in the meantime, your mind has wandered off or strayed off. Your mind has become dull or distracted, and that murmuring is not really bodhicitta meditation. Bodhicitta meditation is keeping yourself awed and inspired by the shift, that little shift that your mind has made towards selflessness and dropping selfishness as a root and cause of all sufferings from time immemorial till now. You are so converted, you are so changed as a person. All your troubles has been the tricks of your own selfishness. And previously you point finger to him or her or that or organizations, and we always do that so deludedly, selfishly. Now we are completely transformed in saying, what a wasteful way to live and think like that in the past. I am not going to do that. This is my vow. Instead, I can see these are all the delusion of self-righteousness, my ignorance, my greed, my self-importance, I, me, and mine emphasis is and was the true origin of suffering. We call in general Buddhism the second noble truth, truth of origin. True origin of suffering is not karma, not affliction, it's selfishness and ignorance of it. Now, if you really have a good reckoning of what bodhicitta constitute, there must be strong sense of renunciation from selfishness, not so much from samsara. What's the point of renouncing house and a car and heater and a bath and all of that, because you will need them. So you can leave one home and go for another home. So what's the point of going from one home to another home? That's not called renunciation. Real renunciation is renouncing the true origin of suffering. It is very difficult to spot and discover the true origin of suffering. That's why Buddha called it truth. The true truth of origin of suffering is self-grasping. It's not some craving or desire or attachment to worldly things. No, those are the external works and of the affliction. But very subtle true truth or origin of suffering is selfishness, self-grasping. So one has to have a strong bodhicitta motivation, becoming really disgusted with the self-centeredness. So they call it meditating on the shortcomings of self-cherishing. So maybe sometimes you can say, this morning I'm doing meditating on the shortcomings of self-cherishing. So without meditating on the shortcomings of self-cherishing, you will not be able to meditate on the how to cherish on the benefit of selflessness. So all the sufferings that we have experienced in life has been the remote cause of our suffering was selfishness. Maybe some near cause or immediate cause, or maybe what he did or what they did, or appear. Those things are just secondary causes of the suffering. The true and remote, too remote to recognize. Remote doesn't mean insignificant. Remote means it's very difficult to recognize. In Tibetan epistemology, we call hidden. The hidden cause of suffering. It's for the Aryas, for the exalted beings. These are not hidden for them. They can see it very clearly with their naked eyes. The true origin of suffering is selfishness, and so then meditate analytically, and where and when. You can use some examples of your life experiences with him or her, with the problems, and what did you think, and what you did do, and where did you get as a result. All of those things we have always tried to point our finger to some other people's doing, have very little or willingness to acknowledge our tricks of our selfishness. Now, when you truly are meditating on Bodhicitta, you will need to meditate on the shortcomings of self-cherishing, and not only meditate on them, but come to reform your attitudes about a number of episodes in your life where you have previously pointing your crooked finger as if it was him or her or they did to me, or that kind of attitudes. So until you stop pointing the finger and look within yourself and discover the selfishness, there is no way of generating bodhicitta unless we can apprehend the true truth of origin of suffering is self-cherishing. And meditating on that is a very powerful way to change and bring a shift in your attitudes, that I cannot possibly continue this. This is untenable for me to live under this fraud practitioner in me, thinking I'm Mayanist, thinking I have bodhisattvas, but yet I have not even developed the first kind of revulsion from the self-cherishing of myself. And as a result of my self-cherishing, I thought this about him, I blamed him about her, about that, I spoke harshly to him, I criticize about someone to someone. All these things are none other than the tricks of my own lack of bodhicitta. And you cannot generate bodhicitta unless you know what is lack of bodhicitta and what problem it presents to you. So bodhicitta meditation is path, truth, noble truth of the path. But you could not bring a path before you can, before you recognize the true truth of origin of suffering. And that is selfishness. That is selfish citta. Selfish citta. So the selfish citta has to be meditated upon, discovered, and realized that it is such a hidden kind of a bacteria that is not very difficult to diagnose, let alone find a prognosis. So therefore, we must meditate on the demerit of selfishness. And so analytically, as I'm talking right now, it's important how much of our personal sufferings are doing of selfishness, of thinking of me, my body, this life, and temporal comfort and conveniences, and so when we are actually and carrying on about ourselves, it's usually all about me, my body today, and the discomfort. It's all about me. One who is practicing bodhicitta, even if some other person is completely selfish, like we used to be, when you see them, you can say, this is exactly what I used to do. Now I'm at least able to see when someone behaves selfishly without consciously knowing it, they are completely unaware. And then you develop compassion to them. You develop loving kindness to them. And then you, instead of developing aversion and aggression to them, and then you say, being able to practice selflessness and bodhicitta to them while they're going through, though it's temporarily hard for me, I have to put their well-being first. I have to willing to bear this inconvenience to me on my body at this very moment, but in the long term, in the future, it will benefit them and me. It will be benefit my mind, and it will be actually most productive result that I could have imagined. Now, when you have this kind of far-sighted vision, this is the range of your mind. Now your range of mind increases from me to the other, from today to the future, from this life to the future lives, from convenience of the body to the benefit in the mind stream, from aversion to harm, but willing to embrace with the harmful things and to practice tolerance. When you are able to increase your range of the reason why you practice bodhicitta, even bodhicitta is our bodhicitta is a beginner's bodhicitta. Bodhicitta is divided into a number of levels and categories. And all practitioners, before they reach the first bhumi, are path of accumulation and path of preparation. So the variation of different grades and skills and abilities and lack of is very, very many. So that's why we are all beginner bodhicitta practitioners. Beginner bodhicitta practitioners will have limited resources of merit and patience, and to be able to switch those 5 I mentioned above. But it's very interesting about bodhicitta meditation. It doesn't have to be only a formal session. It could be right now when you're listening to a teaching. Of course, the teaching itself is bodhicitta, so it's quite useful. But even if you're listening at science lecture, or the rocket science, or just your everyday job, which has nothing to do with Dharma, but it's still, you will find yourself, you are doing your job a lot more sincerely, thinking it's not just to convenience yourself. You are doing a very genuine job. You're doing your work so sincerely, not just looking at the hours and the time, but how best you can do the job for the benefit of others. And that also doing it very altruistic, very sincere motivation. And not just doing it so that you don't have to put up the hardships, but you never mind facing the hardships temporarily in order to do the real job for the benefit of others, or benefit of whatever you've been asked to do. So there's an amazing sense of, I would say, fittingness and pliancy in which you find yourself doing a job. You do not show any grievances. If you did any job with the bodhicitta motivation, say even unpaid one, those you do voluntarily, you don't show any grievances. I did this, I don't want to do this, I did. You're not mean and calculating what you did, hours or months or weeks or years. You did it for nothing type of thing. you don't mention anything you did for nothing. Bodhicitta is not nothing. There is a danger of bodhicittically doing things as a nothing. I did for nothing. And all the Mahayana Buddhists are not doing anything for monetary benefit. Shouldn't be do anything for monetary benefit. Should be done for the benefit of maturing sentient beings, benefiting them. Money is maybe used as a token to share our trades or energy or skills, but that's the conventional. But your mind is not in it. You don't say, I did for nothing. If you did with Bodhicitta, Buddha was sitting under the Bodhi tree for nothing. Do you say that? He did nothing and he achieved nothing. Not like that. He wasn't doing for the monetary value, for the convenience for his body. He wasn't looking for convenience for the body. He wasn't doing it just for the temporarily. He wasn't doing for just for this life. He completely switched all of those, this life to next, right now to future, self to the other, body to the mind, and harm to benefit. So therefore, when you're doing anything with the intention of bodhicitta, that is bodhicitta meditation. So long as you guard your mind and develop the right set of intention with which you try to do, and then try to employ the activities that involve your body or energy, and then try to do it with that very spirit. So you can see, how do you know that you are doing meditation on bodhicitta? In meaning that you are actually fully present in doing a very, very genuine work for the benefit of others. Even though what you do is only for this person immediately, but you are doing it for the sake of all sentient beings. You would not have any discriminating way of doing that with any others. You will do it with anyone, you will do it in that way. There is no discrepancy how and what you will do to whom, because your bodhicitta motivation is inclusive of, for the sake of all sentient beings. So on the surface, it might be look like you are doing with this person individually, but you are actually dedicating for the sake of all other beings. So the bodhicitta has a very wide range for the benefit of infinite sentient beings. So you don't do it for yourself. So that's why, and you do it because this person, though you are doing for, is not someone you really like to do, but you know they are your past lives mothers. You know that we owe them something. Even if we don't owe them something, they still need yours to help more than anybody else. Then, therefore, you feel very, very fortunate to be able to do that. It's your pleasure to do that for them. So you can see how the bodhicitta meditation actually happens when you have the right attitudes. So bodhicitta is an attitudinal practice of selflessness, of doing for the sake of others, and knowing that this is the way of the Buddhas of the past, Buddhas of the present and future. They have all done this, is doing this, will do in the future, and I too, as a humble disciple, will seek to follow and emulate them. So with these kind of attitudes, I shall reach Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. So even though you are doing, you might be helping someone to load his car or take his shopping trolley from the Woolies to the car park because the person seems like not coping very well. Even though your actual act might be just that, but yet you're doing it for the benefit of all sentient beings. I shall reach Buddhahood. So you're generating that for the sake of all sentient beings. And in the meantime, you are doing this for this person, but you're doing it with intention for the benefit of all sentient beings to achieve Buddhahood. Why? Because they have mothered me as a mother in many lifetimes, that I have no way of recollect all of them. But I for sure know that I had countless lives, and in each life I have been carefully cared and kindly tended to, and I receive love and tenderness and kindness from all sentient beings. I may have completely forgotten them, but I don't need to remember them all. But I'm sure this way of doing this for the sake of them is like learning to repay the kindness of unrecognized mothers. And they have done many things selflessly than anything that is comparable to what I'm starting to do now. So when you have this intention, you know that you are doing this, whatever you're doing, for the sake of reaching enlightenment, because all sentient beings have been kind numerous times as your mother. And this is the most, this is the way of all the Buddhas, and this is the most profound most profound yoga is yoga of meditation, yoga of mind control. You can change your physical posture. You know about 50 over asanas and yoga. You might think that's great. You might feel supple. That's very good. But what if you can change your awkward mental posture? This fixated, this rod in you, this mind of self-centeredness. This is the attitudes and posture we need to change above all other postures. So if you don't change the posture of the attitudes, but no matter how many posture you can do with the body, acrobatics can do, you think changing the posture is good, then all the acrobatics will reach enlightenment before anybody, because they can do amazing moves. But we need to move one attitude, that is selfishness should be dropped and selflessness should be adopted. And the more your mind and attitude stay very present in how to yield that, and then you are sitting there or you're doing whatever you're doing, because you could be walking around the stupa, you could be doing your work, or you could be sitting here like the Sunday meditation. Outward form may change, but deep down it is Bodhicitta meditation in real time. So this ability to sustain the mindfulness of your bodhicitta, like a river, like a road, So we need to liken our practice of bodhicitta should be like a river. River is continuously flowing. She does not take a break from the sun or in the afternoon or on Sunday. She is continuously flowing. So that's why Mahayana Buddhist teaching has given as many as 22 analogies how not to forget bodhicitta. So the bodhicitta should be contained, continued, maintained like a river. We should be very much like a mountain. Our bodhicitta should be like a mountain. It is always the recognizable monument. You might drive past somewhere, you can always notice that mountain, don't you? However far from you are driving, you can see the landmark of the mountain. Likewise, no matter how many different areas of life, a situation you're going through, always remember bodhicitta. So remembering bodhicitta and then making either of these 5 switches, if possible all the switches, that is bodhicitta meditation. How do you know it's bodhicitta meditation? You will feel uplifted. You will feel the extraordinarily incomparable joy and properness and the sense of what bodhicitta meditation constitutes. Bodhicitta meditation will enable your suffering to be minuscule. You will see your suffering, my body, discomfort, illness, as not the biggest thing. It's nothing in comparison to helpless sentient beings who are languishing in the quagmire of samsara. So you will see the enormity of suffering of sentient beings who are suffering due to their selfishness. whether people in war, whether people are killed in hijack or accident, or a mass murderer, or a train crash, all of their suffering. Just think of those suffering. Whatever suffering you're going through is minuscule. You will be able to see comparatively how to make your mind very strong and not mind the bodily discomfort, and not think of me but think of others, not think of now but think of future, not think of body but the mind, not think of the little harm now but how much great help it will empower you to have in the future. These kind of selfless, far-sighted, spiritual and holistic practice is called bodhicitta. So bodhicitta meditation may take form of prayer. Some devout Buddhists will be saying the bodhicitta prayer, I shall reach Buddhahood to aid all beings who mother me, and I will practice this because this is the profound path of all the Buddhas. So you might be saying that formula, I'll practice generosity and like for the benefit of all sentient beings. So, or you can recite the four immeasurables. May all beings have happiness, a cause of happiness. Some recitation is good to do. Or Om Mani Padme Hum. You can say Om Mani Padme Hum, but while reciting Om Mani Padme Hum, you can maintain your bodhicitta meditation. You might be doing a ritual that has all these, but still all of the ritual could be done under the mental kind of focus of being in the bodhicitta motivation. So you could be at your work, but at the work, before you start the work, you just make sure you switch on the bodhicitta motivation, and then switch yourself to do the things, not discriminate your everyday work as a mundane work and the Dharma work as something special. You are, of course, as a beginner, you tend to do that. You wish you could be free, leave the samsaric world and increase more form of practice. But if you really understand bodhicitta meditation, you don't need to drop your other things you have to do. For practically, you have to do if you are a nurse, or if you are social worker or whatever, you really want to do what you're best trained in, but you do with the right intention. Particularly when people are very difficult, there you have to be tolerant, patient, generous, and compassion, instead of being mean and righteous and aggressive and it's not my job, it's not my duty, these kind of behaviors. These are not bodhicitta. You don't say what is your duty. Your duty is to serve to all sentient beings. So if you have to do something on top of your so-called duty in your job description, that is also a service. You go and serve sentient beings. In the bodhicitta, your duty is to serve all sentient beings. In your normal job, you just watch the in-tray and just pay attention to whatever is in-tray of yours, and never mind who else need any help. So there, people's jobs are very, very segregated and compartmentalized, and some people don't want to pay any attention, saying it's his duty, it's their duty. But in bodhicitta, you do not demarcate. You don't create a boundary. In the Western psychology, they always talk about creating a boundary. Whenever I hear that, I feel so sad. I say it's all about breaking the boundary. It's not about creating boundaries. The more you create boundary, the more you become selfish. So you need to bring down those boundaries. This is the problem. So bodhicitta is about bringing down the boundaries. Of course, we are as a beginners. You might feel that you may be totally stressed out, you couldn't do anymore, you may overwhelm. Yeah, so a bodhisattva practitioner needs to trade incrementally. First practice with the friends, then with the neutrals, and then with the enemies. That's what they call it. First give to people who you really love to give. They say, I want you to have. The person doesn't want, but we just want you to have this, because if they have it, we are so happy. But we were not willing to give that to the person who really needed most. So you can see how our generosity is very much a kind of a poison by attachment to the object. You see, that's not really generosity. So generosity has to be free of attachment to the object, free of any unaltruistic intention, and free of the material itself that we're giving, tainted by any kind of wrong livelihood. If people have resorted to wrong livelihood and acquire those, and if one gives that, it is not fit to give to others, because what one has acquired was acquired very, very untruthfully or unlawfully or immorally speaking. So the person needs to be very, very well acquainted with what constitutes having a bodhicitta meditative state. Now, bodhicitta meditation is therefore, if you're doing a practice, at the very beginning in the bodhicitta prayer said, the rest of the sadhana or practice you're doing something. Idea is that you need to maintain the bodhicitta as the mainstream that makes you to continue to stay present with all the activities. So it's not just bodhicitta you finish at the very beginning saying 3 times and then you're doing other things. It's not like that. Bodhicitta needs to be engaged continuously. The firstly saying the bodhicitta prayer 3 times is just starting up the bodhicitta engine. And then once the engine has started, it has to stay switched on. If it's not on, it's not on. As simple as that. It was switched on, and then after that it went off. So you have to see whether the bodhicitta button is on or off. So if the bodhicitta button is on, whatever you're doing outwardly only differs in form, but in substance it is bodhicitta. Bodhicitta is not just a preliminary practice, I bet you. Bodhicitta is the main practice. Bodhicitta is the butter from the churning of the Dharma. How could you treat it merely as a prayer that you do at the beginning? So therefore, bodhicitta has to be maintained continuously, switch on continuously. I liken the example of the preliminaries of refuge and bodhicitta that we do at the beginning of practices as an example of food making. When you are mixing a cake or something, there are a few items of the cake you add first. And then on top of that you add other things and maybe 10, 20 other items. And then later on you mix all of them together. The flavor of the first item you mixed and the second and third should still play the role in the whole food production, doesn't it? So if the item that you add first went down through the drain and then you mix the rest of other items, it wouldn't the flavor wouldn't show. So therefore, bodhicitta meditation isn't just a prayer at the beginning, or the so-called people say bodhicitta meditation is tonglen. People think the tonglen is bodhicitta meditation. It's just a technique of looking how you... So this tonglen is exactly switching self from other, body from the mind, and health from harm, and this life to future life, now to the future. These are the tonglen. You have to let go of this life, this right today, self, body, and comfort. You have to let go of all these things. You have to take up the altruism for the sake of others. So even the tonglen is you first of all take on the sufferings of others. So it is, but you never take other people's suffering. You hardly can eliminate your own suffering. How can you take other people's suffering? So we never can. If the suffering tonglen practice is as true as it sounds, then Buddha would have taken all our suffering. Why we are still languishing in suffering? Buddha would have removed all our sufferings because he perfected tonglen. But tonglen doesn't mean we can remove somebody's suffering. Tonglen is our attitude needs to be switched from these five short-sighted to the 5 far-sighted. So the tong means let go. Len means to accept. Let go of this life right now, me, my body, and comfort. Let go of those things, out of out of loving kindness for yourself. Out of loving kindness for yourself. Then accept future lives. Practice for the future lives and the future in general, and for the sake of others, for the sake of your mind, for your mind stream, and for the sake of for the long-term benefit. And when you do this, then you have practiced compassion with your present self's limitations, and therefore there is no real tonglen we actually can practice with others. We can only do tonglen with ourselves. The one who has not done tonglen with self could not do tonglen with others. Even if he does, the other person's karma we can never take on suffering. If that's the case, then all the Buddhas of the past should have taken all our suffering. Why we're still languishing in samsara? So therefore, tonglen is just a training of the mind, rather than actually being able to take other people's suffering and give all your happiness to others, as you have so much happiness to give to other people, as if you don't mind you taking on sufferings of others. So that is actually only a training to switch those 5 switches. And that is what one's meditation or tonglen really constitute. So with this in mind, the bodhicitta need to be interpreted and understood very, very holistically. And if you know the bodhicitta in that context, there's amazing sense of light-heartedness in you, and how almost like a big burden that we've been weighed down by has been now offloaded, and we no longer are suffering the heavy burden. Why? Because we relinquish selfishness, short-sightedness, and the material, physical body priority of that. Because we are no longer doing the true origin of truth of suffering, so therefore we will not suffer. We are not carrying the baggage. We are no longer carrying the baggage. So the truth of suffering is no longer continue, because the true origin of suffering, true origin of suffering has been terminated. Why? You're practicing the truth of the path. When you practice the truth of the path, the truth of the path is 4 noble truth. Practicing noble truth of the path is the 4th noble truth. 4th noble truth is a cause. The result is truth of cessation. Truth of cessation is then there is amazing shift and ending of the poor me and sorrows. Even you have some difficulty, you see them as a result of your tricks of the past selfishness. So you do not reject them, despise them, you accept them with humility and dignity. Why? You are able to cause the cessation of the sorrow by being patient with the sorrow that is a result of the past misdeeds, and therefore you wisely are able to put a stop to the suffering by not reacting and despising. This is actually bodhicitta meditation in action, what we call engaged bodhicitta. So when you engage the practice of bodhicitta, then you see the cessation. Then you see the cessation of sorrow, of selfishness. Now we are not doing selfishness. Now we are not doing ill will. Now we are not doing enmity and wrong view. It's not that we don't see some people's wrongdoing and so forth, but we feel pity on them. We now feel pity and empathize them, rather than being righteous and punitive, as our deluded selfishness usually tend to do. We don't want to do that. That is the true origin of suffering. We don't want a true origin of suffering. Because we have heard and heeded too the 4 noble truth teachings. So when you practice bodhicitta, you're not doing some advanced practices. It is actually following the very scheme of the 4 noble truths. how do you know that you are following the Four Noble Truths when you practice bodhicitta? You can feel so true. You can see and revalidate each of the four truths. You know the truth of suffering. You discover and you are able to abandon the true origin of suffering. You follow the truth of the path, and you can see and witness the cessation of sorrow by your own conscious practice of the bodhicitta. So the bodhicitta meditation, you need to develop a way of staying in that bodhicitta intention, not only on the cushion, but off the cushion. In everyday life situation, at work or life or something, where you are able to still maintain the bodhicitta motivation. And they say, remember bodhicitta, remember bodhicitta. They say, if you don't forget bodhicitta, that's the highest form of mindfulness, the mindfulness of bodhicitta. There's a lot of secular Buddhism. People do all kinds of mindfulness stuff to become successful, to become productive. For what? What is so productive? Productive is, all this materialism hijacked form of mindfulness is not Buddhism, let alone bodhicitta. So the Mahayana Buddhist bodhicitta motivation has the very prime purposes of try to be mindful so that we don't forget bodhicitta. That's the real mindfulness. Otherwise, what? You're mindful to shoot at the target? That's also mindfulness. So we have lots of target shooters. We have a lot of assassins. Are they mindful? They are pretty accurate. They're productive, and they yield good wages for doing that. Is that called secular Buddhism? No, that's nothing to do with Buddhism. We do not need to water down Buddhism. Buddhism is as rich as it is, and it should not be compromised in name of all sorts of things. So when we say mindfulness in Buddhism, even mindfulness, for the beginners we say mindfulness body, mindfulness feeling, mindful of thought, mindful of phenomena. But all of these four foundation mindfulness is taught as a foundation for the people to be mindful of their attitude. Mindful of bodhicitta. The main practice of meditation is how to remain very present in yielding, conceiving, and sustaining the bodhicitta, sustaining altruism. Not just in prayer, in meditation, but also at your work, at the very nooks and crooks of your life situation. If you remember bodhicitta, that is bodhicitta meditation, because it will salvage you and save you from declining into very unproductive situations. So yes, bodhicitta is the most productive meditation, and it is said that if the merit of the bodhicitta were to be seen in a material form, our whole universe would be too small to accommodate it. So therefore, yes, productive, yes, yes, accurate, yes, it will be very accurate. You haven't missed a mark if you know the mindfulness practice is so that you do not forget bodhicitta. When Shantideva talks about guarding your mind, he says how to guard your mind so that you don't lose the sight of the bodhicitta. What's the point of guarding your mind? Even the lion that is about to attack the giraffe or the other wild animals in the wild, they are very, very mindful. They are very, very diligent. They're very, very accurate in their timing, how to jump, when to jump, in order to make a kill. You would think these are mindfulness? No, these are just survival. They are survival techniques. So they don't have attend any of the courses in mindfulness stuff. They are able to do that. So why we wanted to invoke mindfulness in everyday life? If it wasn't to yield loving kindness, compassion, and altruism, I don't know. And so therefore, authentic Buddhist practices and teachings should be accurately recognized and honored and acknowledged for what they are, instead of trying to package it in a way as they can teach it otherwise. So there's a lot of quite a lot of not really religiously Buddhist practitioners, but people who have done Buddhist meditation a lot, and then they have become therapists. They tend to be now using this kind of model for their discipline, which is perfectly fine, because we don't have any copyright in Buddhist teachings. People are able to do that, but it will be important for them to distinguish what really is true mindfulness. True mindfulness is mindfulness how to practice selflessness and altruism. And any other mindfulness, to be productive, to be great leader, to have a very great kind of a return, that you are much productive. This is materialism, So we have to. This is exactly focusing on the material benefit, And altruistic meditation, Bodhicitta meditation, is not seeking any short-term, let alone material benefit. It is not seeking to those kind of superficial benefit and outcome and number and quantity. So it's not, some people say, oh, it was a very successful course, there were so many people. I wouldn't say that. The successful course, how would you, that success is material success you're talking about? No. Even if you can introduce Bodhicitta meditation practice to one person, it is so much merit in that than any other number of crowd come just for the afternoon saying, wow, that was fantastic, and can I have another session type of thing. So they're addicted to some kind of therapeutic kind of session with a performer. They say, oh, can you give a meditation just one-on-one? I said, what the hell are they talking about, one-on-one meditation? One-on-one meditation. I can't understand one-on-one meditation, because in Mahayana we always do the meditation for the sake of all sentient beings, and they want one-on-one meditation. So there are definitely some people say, oh, do you do meditation one-on-one? I say, what the hell are you talking about? We don't do meditation to others. We teach other people how to meditate for the benefit of all the people and others. So, because there is that kind of, one sees the meditation as a service, that someone can do it for you. Of course we can dedicate for the sake of others and so on. But actually the mindfulness, how can we be mindfully doing it for the sake of altruism, for the sake of benefit of others and the future? If we are able to focus that, then you will see whatever form of your other meditation is, you don't call that meditation this, meditation that. It needs, as a Mahayanist, the Bodhicitta has to be the main principle of the meditation. Then the first principle is renunciation of selfishness. Lama Tsongkhapa talks about 3 principles of the path. First principle, he talks renunciation. What he's talking about? Renunciation from selfishness. Second is principle of bodhicitta. Yeah, you can't practice bodhicitta if you have selfish. So therefore renunciation of selfishness and adoption of bodhicitta, second, and the third one is right view. Yeah, then third one is bodhicitta, is that you do not get attached to your practice and the view that I am the one who did it. That kind of clinging. If you have the wrong view, it's not correct path. So therefore all these 3 principal path is bodhicitta, relative and ultimate bodhicitta combined. The union of relative and ultimate bodhicitta constitute 3 principles of the path. So you can see as great realized being like Tsongkhapa would not simplify things if it wasn't inclusive of relative and ultimate bodhicitta. And of course, when that very three principal paths as each of them are taught in detail, of course it starts with the renunciation of samsara and this sort of thing. But that's very much leaning onto the Theravada and conventional Buddhist teachings. But Mahayanistically, we do not really see any samsara that we have to renounce. We should stay with the samsara. We should stay within the samsara and work with sentient beings until they are all liberated. So we don't renounce samsara. So therefore we must not interpret the Tsongkhapa's concept of renunciation, renouncing the world. From Mahayanistically, we don't renounce the world. We make vow not to renounce, but a vow to come back in the world and work with sentient beings. So renunciation in that case is renunciation of selfishness. Okay? So it's not renouncing of the world at all. Then it does not, if one renounces the world, then it does not qualify the Mahayana teachings. It may qualify like a Theravadan teachings, renouncing the samsara, and so that you can attain nirvana for yourself. And that, if people interpret it that way, then remember that this renunciation of, you can't practice bodhicitta by renouncing samsara. Samsara is your cause and cause of your generational bodhicitta. So you can't renounce samsara. You have to work with samsara and deluded sentient beings. You can't run away from one deluded sentient being saying he's too much or like that. That is not renunciation. That's escapism. So that's why renunciation does not mean renouncing samsara. It's renouncing the cause of samsara, that is self-centeredness. So that's the real true understanding of a renunciation. And the bodhicitta, true understanding of bodhicitta is that actually you develop wishing and engaging bodhicitta at all times for the sake of all sentient beings, having discovered the demerit of selfishness. Having discovered the demerit of selfishness, then you therefore adopt the selflessness as a practice, with both in wish and in action. And then ultimate bodhicitta, which is the third one, is the right view, is that even if you practice all the right 6 paramitas and bodhisattvic deeds, but you do not get attached to them as truly existing bodhisattvic deeds of me or mine, but you see them also lacking true inherent existence. Thus not become attached to them and show compassion to those beings who don't see the right view, but you yourself is completely detached from any attachment to the merits that you think that even the merit do not truly exist. And even the merit are interdependently originated. So that's the meaning of what we call 3 principles of path. So 3 principles of path is principally talking about the union of relative and ultimate bodhicitta meditation. So it has to be, because Tsongkhapa was such a towering figure as manifestation of Manjushri. How could he possibly illustrate a teaching saying it's a three key principal point of path, which how could he miss the mark of not being union of relative and ultimate bodhicitta? Of course he hasn't. But other people who don't foresee the whole kind of range of the 3 principal paths might focus too much on renunciation, saying that you have to renounce the world, but they don't realize the second principal path, which is bodhicitta, must not renounce the world. One must work, serve, and help all sentient beings. How could you renounce and then come back? So that is not possible. So that's why bodhicitta meditation is the main fabric of all Mahayana and Vajrayana meditation. Even Vajrayana meditation is a constant bodhicitta meditation. The bodhicitta meditation in Vajrayana is mainly relative bodhicitta is there. Ultimate bodhicitta is always meditating on the emptiness. But emptiness is meditated in the form of the deity, and that is the relative bodhicitta. So in order to be with sentient beings with whom we need to help, we need to manifest in a form of the deity, which is the bodhicitta is the deity. The wisdom of practicing bodhicitta is the deity. Yeah? And the knowing that the deity's form is just empty is the ultimate bodhicitta. But the need to manifest in the Rupakaya form body for the sake of other sentient beings is the relative bodhicitta. And without that, even deity yoga is constant meditation on bodhicitta, I tell you that. If you don't have that, then what's the point of you becoming, you're already female, becoming another female deity. You already got one face, why you want to have another face? You know, the purpose is that you try to renounce your selfhood from the fixed identity of that body and then replace that with the right form or manifestation of a relative bodhicitta in form of the deity, which is the deity is the wisdom deity, not the actual some spirit entity, free floating spirit entity that is your deity. No, it's not. We're not worshipping any spirit. We are simply emulating the selfless bodhicitta motivation, and which we therefore deify that in a form of the deity. That's a relative bodhicitta. But that appearance of the deity is empty of true existence. That's ultimate bodhicitta. So you can see Vajrayana meditation is also meditation on bodhicitta. Relative and ultimate combined. Whether it's generation stage or completion stage or union of them. They are all bodhicitta meditation skillfully dispensed in order to arouse the very altruistic meditation so that yourself is taken up by the form of the deity who looks after other beings than anybody else. And so therefore your form of the deity is wisdom, not material, physical. And the meditating on the form of the deity helps you and other sentient beings more than anything that is caused harm by oneself. It helps you not only now but also future, and therefore the meditation on the Vajrayana's deity yoga is also a meditation, the meditation of bodhicitta. So therefore all of you here that we know are practitioner of one or other deity yoga, as well as those of you out there who do deity yoga, you should see the deity yoga itself as a comprehensive meditation on bodhicitta. You just have to keep the spirit of altruism, and why you're manifesting in the form of a deity is out of altruistic motivation. You don't want it to stay in this dharmakaya and emptiness, so you're manifesting as a form to reach and outreach sentient beings. So that's a relative bodhicitta. But for your own sake, you are empty of true existence of even the deity, because it's the wisdom deity, it's not the kind of free-floating spirit that is appearing. So with this in mind, then you will be able to know that bodhicitta meditation for beginners and advanced intermediate practitioner alike is the most quintessential subject and object of meditation of all meditations. Even calm abiding, even special insight is done so that you develop loving kindness, compassion, and bodhicitta. The great author Kamalashila says that in his stages of meditation, the reason we meditate on calm abiding and special insight is so that we can conceive and realize bodhicitta. So that shows highly, very clearly that bodhicitta is the meditation and aims and purpose of all, I would say, esoteric and exoteric Buddhist meditation practices, discipline, and mindfulness. So I would like you to all to apply the bodhicitta throughout the whole meditation prayer. Even if you're reading a book, you can read that with bodhicitta motivation. Even you're doing some gardening or looking after other things, don't see them as a chore. Don't see them as your day job. See them as a service for how your actual work can be employed with the bodhicitta motivation, then you will find the bodhicitta is pulsating in your every cell and tissue, and make your body very light and the mind very, very wise. And you are not short-sighted. You're always thinking for the long-term benefit and how I can be of service to others. And doesn't matter what is it that you have to do. So therefore, everything becomes the depth and the breadth of bodhicitta meditation becomes part of everyday well-being. So that's all we have time for. Thank you, everybody. Of course, bodhicitta practice can be continued throughout whole day, unless you feel a little bit stressed to have a break. But you don't have a break from bodhicitta, do you? I don't think so. Sometimes having a break itself is entices your bodhicitta even more strongly than ever before. So thank you very much, everybody. We will conclude here. Thank you for giving your valuable time and listening to your own hearts, and may that confirm your confidence in the practice of bodhicitta and make it boost your attention to this. Thank you very much. Let's do the dedication merits. Where has been permitting freely with the generation. Thank you, everybody.